It began with something so small that most people would have ignored it. A driver pulled into a downtown parking garage just before midnight, took the standard printed ticket from the machine, and continued inside without giving it much thought. The city outside was wet from recent rain, and the garage entrance glowed under the same dull orange lights found in every concrete structure built for efficiency rather than comfort. Nothing about the place suggested mystery. It was just another late-night parking facility, multi-level, mostly empty, and automated enough that no staff needed to be visible after dark. The driver only looked closely at the ticket once he had parked and switched off the engine. That was when he noticed the stamp. The ticket did not show the current date and time. It showed an entry time 13 hours in the future. At first, he assumed the machine clock had been set incorrectly. Parking systems fail in predictable ways. Printers skip digits, payment kiosks freeze, and entry timestamps drift when internal settings aren't synced after maintenance. The obvious explanation was simple technical error, but the longer he looked at the ticket, the less normal it felt. The date wasn't just slightly wrong, it was exactly tomorrow. The hour wasn't random either. It was precise, down to the minute, as if the system had printed a valid entry for a point in time that had not happened yet. He checked the dashboard clock in the car, then his phone, then the digital wall clock near the elevator lobby. All three matched the current time, only the ticket had crossed into the next day. That difference should have been annoying, not frightening, yet for reasons he could not explain, it unsettled him immediately. He went back to the entry lane on foot before taking the elevator up, partly to confirm what he thought he had seen. The machine was still active, its red display showing the correct current time. The barrier arm lifted and lowered normally for incoming cars. Nothing about the hardware looked broken. He watched one more vehicle arrive. The driver took a ticket, the gate opened, and the car passed through as usual. There was no obvious malfunction. The machine itself seemed to know what time it was. That contradiction made the printed ticket feel less like a system error and more like an exception, a single record that did not belong to the sequence around it. He considered throwing it away and taking another on exit somehow, but the ticket was already linked to his entry. In parking logic, that slip of paper was now his only proof that he belonged inside the building at all. The garage interior was quiet in the way large concrete structures often are after midnight. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, some bright and steady, others on the edge of flickering. Rows of parked cars stretched into sections broken by numbered columns, each floor slightly emptier than the one below. He had parked on level 4, close enough to the elevator to avoid walking long distances later, but far enough from the few other vehicles that the silence around his car felt exaggerated. It was only after standing there a moment that he noticed something else unusual. The level clock mounted near the payment kiosk was ahead by the same amount as the ticket. Not an hour, not a few minutes, 13 hours. He checked his phone again. The discrepancy was now contained not just in the ticket, but in the garage itself. He approached the wall clock expecting to find it frozen or broken, but the seconds were moving normally. It was running as if it truly belonged to the following day. More than that, a digital payment display near the elevator also showed the same future time. That deepened the problem considerably. A single ticket printer can malfunction on its own. Two synchronized devices on the same level suggest shared wiring or software. But when he took the elevator down to level 2, the clocks there showed the current time again. Same building, same system, different result depending on the floor. By the time he returned to his car on level 4, the feeling that something was wrong had replaced the comfort of technical explanations. The garage was no longer behaving like a single structure. It was behaving like layers of time had been assigned to different sections of the same concrete space. He decided to leave immediately. There was no reason to stay in a place that felt increasingly difficult to explain. But when he drove toward the exit lane, the navigation arrows painted on the floor seemed subtly unfamiliar. He had only parked 20 minutes earlier, yet the route back down looked different from the one he remembered taking up. One ramp was closed with a temporary cone that had not been there before. A turn he remembered as leading toward the main descent instead opened into a lower service lane marked with faded signage. None of this was dramatic enough to prove anything impossible. Buildings can be confusing, especially large garages at night. But combined with the time issue, every small inconsistency became harder to dismiss. Eventually, he reached the ground-level exit and inserted the ticket into the payment machine. The machine rejected it immediately. The screen did not display the normal invalid ticket message. Instead, it showed an unpaid duration calculated from the future timestamp, as if he had already been parked there for more than half a day. The fee was absurdly high for a stay that had not occurred yet. He pressed the help button, expecting a remote attendant or intercom. Static answered first. Then a voice said, "You haven't arrived yet." The line went dead before he could respond. That single sentence changed the entire event from strange infrastructure into something far more difficult to carry alone. Machines can fail, staff can make mistakes, but there was no normal reason for an automated support line to answer with language that treated his presence in the garage as temporally out of order. He backed away from the exit gate and parked near the payment kiosk again, this time keeping the engine running. The idea of waiting until morning felt safer than continuing to interact with a system that no longer behaved according to simple cause and effect. He called the garage management number listed near the machine, but the call rolled to voicemail because the office would not open until 8 a.m. He considered leaving the car and walking out through the pedestrian entrance, but the ticket and barrier logic still tied his vehicle to the garage. Abandoning it felt like agreeing to return later under whatever conditions the building would define, and by then he no longer trusted the place to preserve ordinary conditions between 1 hour and the next. While waiting, he began filming small pieces of the environment with his phone. The future stamped ticket, the wall clock on level 4, the payment display, the empty lanes under fluorescent light. Most of what he recorded looked ordinary enough to make the problem seem almost embarrassing when played back. Yet one clip stood out. In the rear-view mirror, while the camera was focused on the empty lane behind him, a pair of headlights appeared briefly in the distance. He remembered seeing them in real time and assuming another car had entered the level, but in the reflection, the lights were too low and too steady, not moving like a vehicle turning into a row. When he got out of the car and looked directly behind him, the lane was empty. At 1:07 a.m., the level 4 wall clock advanced to a time he recognized from the printed ticket, the exact minute of entry listed on the slip. At that same moment, the concrete level changed in subtle but undeniable ways. A compact sedan now stood parked 2 rows away where he was certain there had been nothing before. The overhead light nearest the elevator had gone dark. A fresh oil stain glistened near a support column he would have noticed earlier while filming. None of these things proved supernatural movement on their own, but taken together, they created the disturbing impression that the garage was gradually aligning itself with the future time shown on the ticket, as though level 4 were catching up to a version of the building that had not happened yet. One security technician became interested enough to review archived camera footage on level 4 during the overnight window when the future timestamp should have corresponded to actual activity. What he found raised a final set of contradictions. Around the exact future time printed on the ticket, the level 4 cameras showed the same driver's car already parked in its space, even though the man was at home asleep by then, and the vehicle had physically left the building after management resolved the issue.
The image quality was poor, and the car model was common enough to make certainty dangerous. But to those who had already handled the logs, the resemblance was too close to ignore. The floor had not just predicted his presence, in some recorded sense, it had contained it. Engineers inspected the clock network, payment validators, and lane control logic over the next week. They replaced hardware, reset floor modules, and updated synchronization protocols between levels. Officially, the problem was classified as a layered systems conflict, tied to older infrastructure surviving inside newer management software. That explanation satisfied accounting and insurance. It did not satisfy the people who heard the intercom say, "You haven't arrived yet," or saw a ticket become valid only when tomorrow finally became
in municipal emergency software long after redevelopment or demolition because the systems preserve location history for legal reasons. But the dispatcher did not know that at the moment. She only knew the voice sounded frightened in a way that felt controlled rather than panicked, as if the caller was trying very hard not to make noise beyond what was absolutely necessary. She sent units immediately while keeping the line open. When she asked the caller whether they could leave the house, the response came after a long pause. "There's no door now." The sentence sounded wrong even as it was spoken. Not dramatic, not unstable, just wrong enough to make the dispatcher glance back at the address field again while officers were already on the way. As she continued trying to keep the caller engaged, the dispatcher pulled up the property notes attached to the address. That was when the contradiction appeared. The residence listed there had been destroyed in a fire 7 years earlier. The parcel still existed, but the house itself had not. Insurance records, city permits, and prior emergency history all showed the same thing. The structure had burned completely and was later cleared, leaving only a vacant lot with partial foundation remains and a chain barrier near the rear. The dispatcher read the note twice to make sure she had not misinterpreted it. Then she asked the caller to confirm the address again. The whisper returned immediately, exact and unchanged. Same street number, same road, same city. There was no uncertainty in the answer. Whoever was on the line believed they were inside a house the city considered erased. Patrol units arrived within 6 minutes. The officers expected a call routing problem, perhaps someone in a nearby home unable to speak freely, or a prank designed to send police to an abandoned lot. But when they pulled up to the address, the scene matched the old records exactly. No standing structure, no active residence, just a low field of broken concrete, overgrown grass, and blackened fragments still embedded in the ground where the fire had done the most damage years earlier. Their headlights moved over the ruins without revealing any vehicle, person, or source of light. Yet back at dispatch, the call was still active. The operator could hear shallow breathing and occasional background sounds that resembled movement inside a room, subtle scraping, soft creaks, the acoustic texture of enclosed space. None of those sounds matched what officers saw under open night sky. The first officer stepped through the broken foundation line with a flashlight, while his partner remained by the car radio. There was nowhere to hide in the obvious sense. The lot was too open, too damaged, too exposed. If someone had been crouched there using a mobile phone, the patrol lights likely would have found them at once. But the dispatcher's audio suggested something else entirely. At one point, she asked if